there are lots of stories about how they built. This is the number 2 engine from 1983. Okay, the first engine was nothing more than a modified XR1000 with a stock lower end. So then O'Brien decided that wasn't good enough and strong enough, so they came up with the idea of building the number 2 motor for 83. And this is it. The problem was how do they configure it? Being that the engine supposedly used XR, cases and stuff like that. How did they configure the motor to work? And what it ended up was they used the XR750 rods. Well, the XR750 rod, of course, is a lot shorter than an XR1000 rod, quite a bit. Did they make a special set of rods?
But the bore on both are the same?
The bore is 3 3/8 because XR1000 cylinders, they still use the cast iron cylinders. So the question was, did they go to a long rod? Or if they didn't go to the long rod, how did they get everything to work? So talking to Peter Zystra, and going back and forth on emails, he said, I know they use the stock XR750 rods. And then stroke the XR750 flywheels. So that said, I said, well, the only way they can do that would be to cut the cylinders down, and I needed a way to verify that. So I went through old pictures that I had of the bike and the engine from that time period and counted the fins. And sure as hell, there was one fin less on the cast iron cylinders. So that told me that they shortened the cylinders. Okay, so
and the result being, when you shorten a cylinder,
now it works in conjunction with a shorter rod.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So now I have a piston that comes all the way up to the top. So what we ended up doing is I shaved. In order to do that, I looked at the thing and said, okay. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and stock is 12. So I knew they took off one fin, but they wanted to maintain this fin. So I had to come up with the difference for the rod difference, which is quite a bit, to make up this difference. You figure that it's basically 1/4 of an inch.
So what's the exact displacement?
It's still a 1000 cc, but it's a short rod motor. Okay, super short rod motor.
That's
a hard acceleration through the
God
corners.
Damn,
that kind of
that's badass.
And as you can
so
see,
basically,
it's got the XR.
Right.
All right.
Right. So basically, that thing smokes Goliath. I mean, Lucifer 1.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, because that's basically, a dressed up production motor.
Well, very hard acceleration off corners.
And that's a long stroke, that XR1000.
This is a 3 13/16 stroke with a little short rod. It gives you a rod stroke ratio. I think I worked it out to like
God.
That's like 1.6 or something. It's terrible.
Damn.
So anyway, that worked out. We got that done. And of course, the stud pad and the cases are all done, so that's all done. Well, then also, so this engine is a 1/2 inch shorter than an XR1000. So that meant I had to come in here.
Which means the head's going to be that greater distance away from the frame, so you've got to modify the chassis.
So I also had to make 1/2 inch shorter studs. So I had specially made studs for this that are 1/2 inch shorter.
Wow.
Heads are up there. So that's all been configured. The second thing is if you look over here, and then all those parts were missing. They weren't around. So what they did in this case is they had this huge insert here with this massive big spherical bearing.
Just to get a spacer?
Well, like an XR,
right,
but much bigger. So you can see this huge insert they put in. So now I had a problem, was how do I connect these two together?
Right.
Because there's got to be a seal plate in here.
All right.
So what I did is I had to figure out this dimension. And keep in mind, you have to have end play, right? So I can't put, the sprocket can't go on this. It has to go on the shaft.
Right,
so,
you got to catch the spline.
Right, so I had to come up with this little, you can see real quickly, this little spacer here. Okay, and this little thrust spacer, which is actually out of a Sportster transmission.
Right.
Okay, slides in here and allows the sprocket, which I had to make, and because it was missing. So that gave me the clearances there. So then I took but now because of this position and the transmission shaft, I had to make a special sprocket because would sit in too far with this shaft. So I took a special spline, welded that onto here, and then counterbored this, made a special nut, and now this all bolts in. Then this is the new seal plate I had to make. The seal plate goes in here, held in by a snap ring. So now that's all done to align with this, and then of course this spacer is also specially aligned.
And you just run transmission oil in the primary.
Right. So now I have the primary all set up. So that's done. So the next, and this is all correct. So we now have that configuration. The top end, the heads are done. That's good. The next problem is this used a special.
Wow.
Now this is actual Lucifer's hammer piece.
Is that the cam cover?
This is the cam cover. Yeah. And what they did is they ran a special number 2 cam here that ran out to a Dyna ignition system in here.
Right.
Through a
because
Dyna,
they were,
this is a Dyna system.
They were done with the magnetos for
Right. So this is all missing. And the adapter here, Peter sent me out a drawing.
So how is that modified from stock?
This whole piece has been put in. You can see how they just DevConned it.
But it left the tack drive, and it left.
The tack drive will then come out of here.
Yeah.
So anyway, so what I have to do now is I have to make this piece that attaches to the end of the cam that will drive the Dyna ignition over here.
With a stock bearing?
This will run a roller bearing. Right, just like here. And this is roller bearing here. So this piece, there's a drawing for this piece, but that Peter sent me, and it's one of those situations through age, there is he sent me 3 pages of basic drawing of the piece, and then it said, look for dimensions on page 7, and of course page 7 is disappeared in history.
That's unfortunate.
So I have to basically hand make this to this. Once that's done, and I configure the cams, and the inside, they used
and let me make sure I get his.
So they use over here. You can see they used the larger Torrington bearings on here. They didn't use the they didn't use the roller bearings.
Amazing.
You can see the nice big insert and all that.
That's amazing.
So I have to have the later cam with the specially designed outside. Once this is configured, the rest is just making everything shorter push on shorter tubes, everything. Transmission I'm starting to put together.
Peter was the technical director of Harley Racing. Is that correct?
Yeah, Peter. Yeah. Great guy. So that's where we're at. You see those are the specially designed short studs.
Wow. And did you do all the design in CAD?
No, I haven't done. I do a conceptual with my hands, and then I have people who I work with who actually will then make it out of CAD.
A lot of math.
Yeah, and I've done it before. Yeah. So these will then.
So when's it gonna go on here?
Oh, this is my dual carb 80-inch knucklehead motor.
Wow.
And I'm gonna make a stupid 60s chopper like I used to ride.
Are you a kid in a candy store? Are you a kid in a candy store?
Well, it's fun to get these things. Of course, I got to work on the crap. Well, this is an interesting motor. This is Leo Payne's. This is his Top Fuel Sportster they used for drag race.
So that's an XL CH1000?
Well, this is an early 900 Sportster that's been big board, and it was set up with a Hillborn fuel injection and a drag race by Leo Payne. And it's here for restoration.
And where'd these come from?
Those are flathead 80. That's a flathead 80 cylinders. That 1934 BMW.
Wow.
You know, got to do a little of everything.
But completely different engineering.
Completely different. It's I've never done one. This is the first.
I mean, that's
the cylinders behind here.
Quite a leap.
Sort of cool. These are a set of cylinders of a 1933, 1934 matchless water-cooled V-twin 1000cc.
Oh my God!
Oh, it goes on the front of it. Those are the heads right up there.
Water? Did you just say water cooled?
Water cooled. You see the cylinders? They're all water cooled up here. See?
And when was that made?
This was used on Morgan three-wheelers in the 1930s.
Good Lord!
So that's a process going on.
What are you doing with this?
Oh, I have one of my clients who's into restoring Hondas, so I get stuck helping him.
Stuck?
Well, it's good to have, So I prep, I do the cylinders for him. I clean and prep everything for him. I do the heads for him, and then he does the assembly.
You do the porting here?
I can. I try to stay just because of time frame.
I had a visit with forget his first name, but Branch down in Long Beach.
Oh, Jerry?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry Branch, famous guy.
Yeah, that was a really interesting experience because he showed me his flow bench.
Oh, yeah?
And he showed me just, how people think, more air, bigger hole. No, it's not just a bigger hole.
Exactly. Velocity.
Yeah.